Hello everyone, and welcome back finally to another discography video. Sorry it's taken so long for me to release something new. Today we are going to be discussing Tool, and I'm going to be using a different format from now on. I'm going to be splitting up different sections of albums into categories. So like for instance, today we're going to have two categories. One is interesting / good. And then the second category is awesome. So we're going to start off in the interesting / pretty good category with Salival is the lowest ranked album in my opinion. This is sort of a box set, sort of bootleg cut, unreleased rare tracks album, and it's not bad. It's pretty good, actually. There are a lot of really good songs, and a lot of good live cuts, and it overall has some interest to me, but overall, the record is very disjointed, because, you know, it's a rare and unreleased, so it's going to have some jank in there. For instance, some of the middle songs, like Merkaba especially, are pretty garbage, if I'm being honest. They're very boring and uninteresting. But there are some interesting cuts, like there's a entirely new interpretation / spin on Push It, which I thought was really interesting since Push It is one of my favorite Tool songs. And I also liked the No Quarter Led Zeppelin cover. I thought it was alright. Everything else kind of just didn't interest me as much. So, moving on to actual studio albums now, we have Fear Inoculum, which is their most recent release. And this one was kind of a disappointment for me, as probably expected. It's clear how much they did good with this album. They did so many good things. The production is very good. It's not the best that they've done, but it's very good. And, the performances, mainly on the instrumentals, are, in my opinion, some of the best that I think we've ever gotten from them. But overall, the main problems that I see with this record are just that, for one, it's pretty long, a bit too long in my opinion, and the audioscapes, which are normally incorporated into Tool albums, are not good at all. Let's just be perfectly honest, especially the closing song, Mocking Bee, is the worst song they've ever done, easily. It's terrible. And some of the actual full-length songs are not that great either. Like, Invincible has a part, like, right in the middle where there's this, like, synth that comes in that suddenly breaks the really cool instrumental section which was going on, and it just completely ruins the vibe. And then the vocals come in, and they have this weird effect on them that just sounds terrible. And that's another thing that I have problems with this album, is that, in my opinion, the vocals are not nearly as strong as on all the other Tool albums. I mean, they're not bad, they're just a little bit, they just don't have the power that they normally have from Maynard. But there are some awesome songs. There are some songs that are completely classic Tool for me, like, I mean, the opening title track, Pneuma, and also Dissension. Dissension is, like, maybe even the most underrated song from their entire catalog. And also, the closing full-length song, Tempest, I used to think it was not good, but now it's grown a little bit on me. So, moving on from that, we have, from their most recent to their earliest release, we have the EP Opiate from 1992. This is definitely their most raw record, and sometimes that's not in the best way. The production on the studio cuts is, let's just be honest, awful. It doesn't completely ruin it for me, because the songwriting is very good for a debut record. Is very good for a debut record, in my opinion, and the vocals are strong, and the live tracks, the live cuts, are the best from this record. They're just so powerful, especially, I mean, the ending of Jerk Off is literally a 10 out of 10. It's perfection, even though I think that Cold and Ugly overall is a better song. And then Opiate, I think, is honestly a little bit overrated, but it's still very good. I love the commentary, and I think that the hidden track is actually quite interesting and puts an interesting spin on the song. So, yeah. So now we move on to the awesome/classic category, and this is where, when I ranked everything, all of the remaining records pretty much tied in their own way. But I'm going to start off at number 4 with 10,000 Days, which is from 2005, or 2006, sorry. The production on this album is, in my opinion, the best that they've ever done. It is masterful. The production is top tier, amazing. And the songwriting for nearly the whole record is great. It is awesome. And the emotional input in the lyrics that are delivered through the vocals, the bass riffs, the drum licks are all just classic Tool. Then we get around like the track 8 or 9 part, track 8 or 9 into the album, and it's just a little bit of a step down, especially with Intention and Right Into, in my opinion, are not the greatest songs. And the last song, Vigente Tres, it's interesting. It's very interesting, a way to end the album. And I think it's interesting as well how that song goes directly into Wings for Marie Part 1. And like I said, the first half, and even past the first half of this record, is extremely good, like almost perfect. It just doesn't quite get there. It really gets up there, but it doesn't get quite up here. So, yeah. Next up, we're going to talk about Undertow from 1993. This was their first full album. And I think that it sort of took what Opiate was doing, gave it a little bit better production, and made it a bit more focused and a bit more powerful because of the production being very murky still, but being more controlled and focused, really gave it this seething, angry, it's like internally exploding, honestly. And I love it. I love the energy on this album. There's just a couple of songs that don't quite live up to the standards that I hold classic Tool. Especially the last song. All the songs are great. And the only real problem comes on the last song, Disgustipated, with the 9-minute cricket ambient section, which I think they still could have done that, just made it not nearly as long. Like if the cricket section was only 3 or 4 minutes, I think it would be a 10 out of 10 song, if I'm being honest. But it just kind of makes the album drop a little bit at the end. It's not the greatest closing song. It's not very good. But all the other songs are, for the most part, amazing. I mean, my favorites are Bottom and Flood, the 2 7-minute tracks that are just completely masterpieces, at least up to this point in their catalog. All right, now we move on to the number 2 spot, which is Lateralis from 2001. It's certainly a toss-up for most people whether Lateralis or Anima is their number 1 record. For me, it's Anima. But first, let's talk about Lateralis and why it's only number 2 for me and not quite number 1. This album, for the most part, is almost perfect. But there are some points where it just gets a little bit low quality. It gets a little bit boring. I'm going to be perfectly honest. Songs in my opinion, Schism is a little bit overrated. It's just a little bit overrated, but it is overrated nonetheless. And some songs, also Parabola, is a little bit overrated. But then you have songs like, I mean, The Grudge is the best opening track that they've ever done. It is a masterpiece. It is a 10 out of 10. And songs like Ticks and Leeches and Lateralis, which is amazing. I mean, some people might consider it to be pretty pretentious, and it's basically a meme. The mathematics within the song is essentially a meme at this point, but it really, really made it into what it was meant to be, and it's just a perfect song. And then also another favorite from this one is Reflection, the 11-minute masterpiece, which honestly, listening to that song, the atmosphere makes me feel like I could just be like, I feel like I'm like trekking across the Sahara Desert and like I'm tripping sort of, and I just sort of transcend, which is sort of what you'd expect from a Tool record. And this one certainly delivers, but it doesn't quite deliver as much as Anima, which is their second studio album released in 1996, and this album is killer. Literally the only complaint I have with this record is that the first song is not fantastic. That's the only complaint I have, and then everything else is just amazing. The audioscapes feel better than all of their other records. They don't feel quite as unnecessary and just trying to create like channels in between each full-length song. It feels like they actually have a purpose. And the actual songs are complete masterpieces, all in their own way. And the energy on this album, this is not the best production they've done. It's still very grimy sounding, sort of within that sort of uncanny valley of just sort of like, okay, like I can sort of, it's sort of good, but it's not like up to par, for most metal records, but it's still really good and it works. And some of the standout tracks on this album for me are Eulogy, which is awesome, 46 and 2, which the outro of that song is amazing. It's so fun to bang my head to. And also songs such as Push It, which I mentioned at the beginning of the video. That song is just so emotionally wrenching for me to listen to, because some of the lyrics I can really relate to, and also just it's compositionally amazing. So many good ideas. And then we have probably, in my opinion, the best song they've ever done, the title track, Anima, which is just a fantastic, essentially a diss track to LA, which I think really captures the energy of the album, of sort of this like seething anger that they were still holding onto in the 90s. And then my favorite audioscape on this album is Ions. I love just listening to it and trying to imagine what it is supposed to be. I interpret it as a alien abduction covered up by a tornado, because it sort of sounds like there's like tarp flying in the wind, and then I can imagine the spacecraft just descending down, and then everything stops, and it's just it's just the most interesting audioscape of theirs and the most effective. And then we get to the closing song, Third Eye, which is just another masterpiece. It's not quite up to Anima, but it is just, it's extremely good. And it really captivates the feeling of transcending, but in my opinion, like probably the wrong way, kind of forcing yourself to like open your third eye, like prying open my third eye. I love that refrain where they just yell it as loud as, where Maynard just yells it as loud as he can, and it just is easily the best closing song that they've done. It's a 10 out of 10, and yeah, that record is just amazing. So yeah, I think that's where I'm going to end it. I hopefully will be releasing videos more often, and hopefully they will be of higher quality. So yeah.